Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP. And it's been 1 year since my autism diagnosis. I got the diagnosis on the 27th of September 2024, and now we're in 2025. And I wanted to, do an update. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an MBTI channel, but also an autism channel. I also talk about my life up in Sweden as a medical resident in general practice. And I talk about books I read and stuff like that. But I've been turning much more towards autism in this past 2 years. It took me a year around to, I got burnt out 3 years ago. Then I started looking into autism, and then I got my autism diagnosis after a year, pretty much. And now it's been a year since the official diagnosis, but I'd already known beforehand, so it wasn't like it was a flip switch from one day to the next that I knew. Like, I knew beforehand as well. I've been more kind to myself. I've given myself grace for things that have happened in the past in relationships that weren't necessarily my fault, but it's maybe not the other person's fault either. It's just the way things were, and I can't go back on that. And autism isn't an excuse, but it is a way to understand and to explain why things happened the way that they did. Because yes, autism is a disability, and the biggest criteria of autism is social difficulties with social reciprocity is one of the biggest. That's an obligatory criteria. There are other criteria which are you need to have 2 out of 4 in the B criteria, and so I'm not sure if I have like the special interest criteria. I would say maybe MBTI is my special interest, and I've had different special interests in the past. Like, I was really interested in Harry Potter. I was really interested in cults, but nowadays I'm not really that interested in that. But I am really affected by the sensory difficulties. I have sensory hypersensitivities and hyposensitivities. Mostly I'm affected by sounds, so I've worked a lot on accommodating for my sensory needs, but I've done that the year before my official autism diagnosis as well. So I have a loop earplugs. I finally bought these noise cancelling headphones, which is great for when I'm walking by busy streets. The only thing is that some of the sounds can't be blocked by that, like motorcycles and grass trimmers are like some of the worst things ever. I also hate when I hear people breathing really loudly and that kind of thing due to misophonia. That is an effect of my autism, pretty much. So it used to be that I would not notice these things until it was too late. Like, I'd be like, why am I so tired? And like, I've been sitting next to this busy road for like an hour. And then I realize, oh, that's why I'm so tired. So now I'm more conscious of these things. Another thing I'm conscious of is that I stim, and now I am getting aware of what things bring me regulation and not. So I've been stimming a lot, and I do it when I feel like it is time to do it, unless I'm in a public space where I'm not safe to do so. I will do it mostly at home by myself, but I'll even do it in public if I'm in a safe situation to do so. And that has really helped me quite a lot. It's not revolutionary, but it is positive that I can do this instead of like keeping it all in, and being able to see what makes me feel better and what makes me feel not good, you know? So that has been positive. Another thing is that I've gone down in time at my work, which has been a really important accommodation and really helped me like just be able to enjoy life. Because I was capable, because I have the privilege of actually earning enough money that I can do so, I'm really glad I could. Yes, I don't think that there are many people who are in my position, but I was in the position where I earned enough money working even 80%, so I can live on that, you know. Another thing is that I don't do eye contact if I don't need to. So in certain situations I need to mask, and in certain situations I can try to unmask. I used to mask unconsciously. Like, it wasn't like I was like deciding to put on a persona, or like I'm not the kind of masker who like practices in front of the mirror and like plans out, scripts out everything I'm going to say. I think maybe I was when I was like a kid, but then I realized pretty quickly that things never go according to plan, so I really quickly abandoned that, and I just improvise on the spot, and it's like I have no control. It's like I embody the person that the people went to see, and it goes as it goes. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, and I don't know what other people are thinking about me while I'm doing it. I'm just doing my best, you know? And it's kind of scary because I lose control of like what's going on, and I just hope for the best, you know? And now I'm more actively realizing when I'm masking and when I'm not. And I can, through that, know that I'm doing this because I went to, or I'm still in the process, but I'm realizing, okay, so this is something that brings me joy, and this is the way that I feel like I'm most authentically myself. And this is a way that I have managed to survive this coping mechanism of acting in this certain way and focusing on these certain things, because other people have made me do this in order to be accepted by them, you know. So I'm starting to differentiate these different, you know, not personas, you know, they're not like constructed things, but like different sides of myself that I reveal in different times, and trying to be least amount of time and situations in the masked self and more time in the unmasked self. But you know, it's a good skill that I have, that I can mask. It's just it drains all my energy. So I don't need to do eye contact with everybody. I can decide not to do it, but it is important for me in order to, you know, survive. It's a survival strategy. Sometimes you need to mask if you're going to be about in the neurotypical world. If you have the skills to, you know. Unfortunately, some people, or I don't know if I should say unfortunately, I'm just saying that's unfortunate for them, you know. They don't have the skills to mask. And you know, my masking skills aren't great either. People notice that something is off with me, and they just don't really know what it is. So often what they think is that I'm from another country, and so therefore I don't understand the culture. That's what many people think. So I've been able to go under the radar through that. You know, they'll be like, oh, she was born in France, like she grew up in France, so she doesn't know how things are in Sweden. Oh, she has an American accent. Like, people can pick up on my American accent, even though I've never lived in the US. I have an American accent when I speak Swedish. It's very slight, but it is there. And so people do pick up on it if they've heard me talk long enough, you know? And it's kind of like, you know, being in a foreign country when you're, you know, neurotypical, masking around neurotypical people. So that's a way that I've been able to fit in, you know, and gotten success at my job. But when it comes to success, I realized, okay, I can't expect a traditional path of success for myself. And it's not like I'm giving up, but it's important for me to know where my boundaries go. What are my capacities approximately? Because if you don't know where the boundaries are, then, like, if you don't know where the walls are, then you will run straight into a wall. You know, that's what happened in my burnout, you know? So, like, imagine you have a garden and then you don't know where the garden ends or starts, and then you just go directly into the hedge because everybody's told you that you can just, like, all possibilities are possible for you. Then you won't know what are the parameters, you know, of your life. So I think that it's been very important for me to know about the autism so that I know where the limits are. I think that the label is very important to me, and it's way more important than the people around me. I barely talk to them about my autism. I would love to talk about it more because, as you know from this channel, I talk about it all the time here, but I don't talk about it that much in my IRL life. And that's because most people don't know what to do with that information. And even the people who I've told about my autism and stuff, and that's, you know, are pretty understanding, they're not on this whole life-consuming journey that I'm in. You know, they're not in this like earth-shattering revelation that's I've been through. You know, they cannot relate because it's such a different experience from all sorts of other experiences. You could relate it to other experiences, but it wouldn't really be the same, you know? It's like you can't relate every experience to another experience. Sometimes experiences are just different from each other. And so, you know, there is grief, but it's not grief, the same kind of grief as the death of somebody close to you. It's not the same. However, you can feel the same emotions for these two very different events. But the entire complexities of it are so different, and also they're so different from individual to individual. So everybody expresses it differently, you know? And so for me, yes, I had some grief about, you know, that things are hard for me, but I also have the relief of like, okay, now I know why I've always felt like something was wrong with me. Now I know that it's due to this, which isn't something wrong, it's something that's different with me. But I think that I had this idea in my head due to me knowing about the MBTI and the INFP thing. I knew that I wasn't going to lead the ESTJ life, you know? So I knew beforehand that I wasn't going to do the traditional route. Even as I was going into medical school and all that, I knew that I wasn't going to be similar to a lot of other people who are more oriented towards external normative versions of success, you know? And this past year, I've made more peace with the fact that maybe for me, the best, where would I feel most most purposeful, most good in my life what kind of life is worthwhile, what is it that I'm most, and it doesn't have to be like values that are expressly stated. It can just be moments that I really appreciate and that I want to experience more of. So certain experiences might be for me. For me, it's like I'm sitting with a cup of tea and reading a book. That's one of my favorite things to do. Another thing is, sitting here and making videos is something that makes me happy. Finding something exciting in the grocery store is something that brings me some joy. Seeing the new flowers coming out brings me joy. These small things in life. Laughing with my best friend is something that brings me joy. Yes, I have bigger goals than that in life, but even if I didn't have those, I would still have a life that would make me happy, So the goals are for me to keep developing and keep, growing and leading a full life. But I can be happy with the small things. And that gives me the stability that I need in my life. So that is something, a shift in perspective that I've had. Another thing is that I've realized about my monotropic focus, that I can't focus on many things at the same time. Neurotypical people can focus, they complain about this as well. They're like, oh, how can you have both a social life and a career and a family and good health? How can you deal with all these puzzle pieces? It's difficult for everybody, especially in this economy. But for autistic people, it's more difficult because we have the monotropic focus, which means that I can only focus on a certain amount of things at a time. And so my life will seem like I'll be in phases. I'll have certain phases where I might be more focused on my career, and certain phases where I might be more focused on my health, and certain phases where I might be more focused on this. And that's okay to live a life like that. I don't need to juggle all these things at the same time because I have time. Like, I can explore these things one at a time instead of trying to cram them all at the same time. Sure, I won't get as much done as a neurotypical person. I won't be experiencing as many different things, but I still will be experiencing new things. Basically, what I need is that I need to have a baseline of like health. So basically sleep, food, exercise, and some kind of creative endeavor. But that is more like the self-development part. So the basics for my physical body is something that I've focused more on this past year, which is basically like I have a sleep schedule, and I have a little bit of a evening routine to wind down. I focused on getting at least some walks in, even though I haven't managed to really exercise. There was a period, right, where I was really focused on this race that I was doing. But then I got overwhelmed by other things coming in, so I can't try to cram in too many things. But I need to have that baseline of like, okay, some movement for my body. It's better to call it movement rather than exercise, because exercise feels like a big thing for me. So I just think, okay, so I need to get my body moving. I need to have fuel for my body, like with food. I've gotten much more, given myself much more grace for eating similar things every day, because it is fine as long as you get the nutrients that you need. So I'm fine with giving myself ultra-processed foods, because for me, that isn't something that I care that much about. I know that for some people that means eating vegan. It means for some people, eating vitamins. For me, it goes by just making sure that I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I am very good at eating breakfast, and I've always been. So, but I make sure that I don't skip that meal because it's important for me, you know. But it might be different for every person, So I've focused a lot on my body, but then I also need to focus on my mind and my development, my growth. But without the body, you can't go further into the growth, And in order for me to focus on my body, I also need to learn new things, because if I'm going to try a new kind of exercise, I need to learn new things. So that can be self-development in itself, or I can work on self-development in other areas, depending on the area that I'm focusing on at the moment. So at the moment, I'm focusing on my career because I kind of need to, because I'm working full-time, which wasn't the way that I wanted things to go, but I have no choice at the moment. So I focus on my learning, on my career. So I have to put the rest on pause for a little bit. But I do also want to do self-development for myself outside of the career. So what I do is that I focus on, okay, I'm going to read books a lot during this period because it's going to be winter soon. Okay, we're in September, but for me, I need to really focus in onto the seasons, because I live in Sweden, which is like night and day, literally, between the spring and summer seasons and the autumn and winter seasons. So I'm getting ready to go into like my hibernation mode. And so I cannot be as productive during the winter as I am during the summer. So I kind of put myself in another mode, and I try to focus on one thing, because I cannot both work full-time and exercise and go to driving school or learn a new craft and do all of these, and eat healthy and do all these other things. I need to focus and at the same time have my basics down. And I think that my life is much better now that I have this sort of framework in my head of how to organize things. And even though this framework can change and stuff, it's good than having no framework at all, because that is really confusing and terrifying. So knowing about the monotropic focus has really helped me. I don't know if I have any like special interests that I want to focus in on, because I really don't have that. And it's not obligatory criteria to have autism, because I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome as well after my diagnosis. So the first 3 months after my diagnosis was just me thinking about autism 24/7. And then I kind of calmed down about that. But yes, it took some time. Another thing, so after the focus on my body, the focus on, how to deal with my goals, another thing is about who I told and what I do with the social interactions now. So I didn't tell too many people. I haven't told my family yet. I've told some of my friends. I've told my boss, my supervisor, some of my colleagues, like 3-4 of my colleagues, but that's way less than half of my colleagues. I haven't told most of my friends. How many friends have I even told? I've only told my best friend, and then I've told my ENFJ friend, and yeah, maybe there's a third person in here that I forgot about. But yeah, I haven't told that many people, and I think it's good. I think that I'm glad I didn't just reveal it on social media. I'm revealing it on here, telling you guys, but I haven't told the IRL people that much. And for me, it's been good to be able to pick and choose who do I reveal this to. Because I haven't had bad reactions, but I haven't had I've had one great reaction from my best friend, but that's because he was the person who discovered it first, pretty much. But it's kind of, it's the best reactions are maybe just like, oh, that makes sense, but it's kind of diminishing how earth-shattering this is for me, and it's a huge life-altering thing for me. And I feel like a lot of people try to minimize it in order to not make things awkward, which I do understand, because like I've experienced this before when it comes to me being gay. I realized that I would come out and people would be like, oh, okay, that doesn't change anything between us. And it's like, yeah, but I wish that you would kind of celebrate it, but it's kind of like it goes under their radar, and it's not their life, so obviously they're not going to be, it's not like they're that affected by it. They think that they're not being affected by it, when really it affects our whole relationship, pretty much. But so that's why I don't talk about it with them very much. But I do think that it has led to better social interactions, because now I'm much more open with my best friend about things, and with my ENFJ friend about things. Also, I've realized that it's okay if I lose a little bit of control in my social interactions. Now, once again, this is very personal to me, but I have been able to drink more. And for me, it is a positive development, right? A lot of autistic people have difficulty with addictions and with needing alcohol to socialize and that kind of thing. For me, it was that I was stopping myself from drinking alcohol because I knew that if I drank too much, I would lose, or I thought that I would lose control, and that I would basically not be able to mask, but I didn't know that was what my fear was. But now I'm able to do it, to drink 2-3 drinks in a controlled situation if I'm with somebody that I know well, which I wouldn't have been able to do beforehand. So it's actually made the social interactions kind of fun for me. Also, another thing is that I've managed to like set down boundaries about like, okay, what social interactions do I need to go to, or do I want to go to, and which ones is better that I just skip it and stay at home, and that's, in that way I can limit on the quantity and get better quality in my social events calendar, So I've managed to go to a wedding, for example. I've needed to prepare for a lot of recuperation time afterwards, but I prioritized that, and it ended up being good. And I didn't need to take myself too seriously, because like I didn't need to mask too much around these people, because I felt safe with them. So it really helps. Actually, I've had better social relationships now that I know what my difficulties are. And so it has helped me to figure out who I am, how my relationships work with others. Another thing is that I've started to question even more about my sexuality, my gender, what is being an INFP, who am I, what do I actually think about my friendships, my romantic love, do I feel that? All these kinds of things. Nothing is set in stone. These labels are important in order to have that framework. And it's kind of like everybody has a map of the world that's more or less shoddy, okay? But my map fails to tell me that there was a third dimension in all of this, in social interactions and stuff, and in how life works. And it seems like I was giving the topography map, but it had like the valleys, and like I had a topological map. Now I've been given this information that, oh, there were mountains there where you thought that it was flat, and everybody else has a flat area where you have a mountain to go over, or everybody has a little bump to go over, but you have like Mount Everest to go over. So it's like I've had a map overlaid on my pre-existing map of how life works. So like the more you understand yourself, the more self-awareness you get, the more layers you get to this map of yourself and of your the social interactions that you have. And so where neurotypical people like have a more complete map than me. So I thought I understood myself because I knew that this was the map, but I didn't know that there was a third dimension in this, you know? So I went from seeing myself in 2D to seeing myself in 3D. And that's overwhelming. That's overwhelming. But, you know, I had seen some of the 3D-ness, I guess, from knowing about psychology and personality and all that. But now I'm aware of this other aspect of myself. So for me, the labels are important. It's not just me sticking a label on myself and saying I can't do these things, it's impossible because of my disability, I'm incapable of all these things. When I say that I can't do something, it's not that it's physically impossible, it's that, and I don't want to limit myself in that way, but it's that I need to know where the parameters are, where the limits are. I need to know what is realistically feasible, and also where I'm going to have more difficulties than others, and where I need to prioritize my energy. Maybe a neurotypical person can manage all of these things without needing to prioritize, or their priorities are the priorities that most people have, and so they can go on that route. Well, for me, my priorities might be completely different. Maybe I don't need to, you know, maybe my priorities aren't in learning to drive a car, because that is not the most important thing for me right now. For me, my priority might be just, you know, getting my toothbrushing schedule on track, because I'm not able to do that. Another thing might be that, you know, maybe I want to focus on my friendships rather than focusing on the romantic relationships, which is what most people my age are doing at the moment. They're mostly focusing on their romantic relationships. But I don't want to limit myself in what I can do due to the autism. I'm able to do, I'm capable of things. It's just that I need to be able to set those boundaries. So I've done that by not traveling for a while, setting boundaries with my family for a while, you know, not taking off more than I can chew. I've also come to realize that a lot of times when we talk about unmasking, we're talking about actually we need to create a new self. We are not just a hidden inner self waiting to be uncovered and discovered, because due to the whole life of masking, we haven't actually constructed that inner self. That inner self might be a 3-year-old, which, yes, is important to take care of our inner child, but we are not our inner child. We are adults, you know, if you're late diagnosed, you know. So I cannot revert to who I was before masking, because there isn't a me before masking. I know that I was masking already at the age of 3, you know. I'm aware of this, because I remember realizing that I was different from everybody else and I needed to hide who I was. So I was already masking by the age of 3. Who knows if I've ever been, I guess that as a baby I was unmasked because I didn't know how to be in social situations because nobody knows at that age. But at the age of 3, I was already masked. So I cannot revert back to a previous version of myself. I need to develop the person behind the mask. Because at the moment, my mask is much more developed than the person behind. Because I've spent so many years perfecting that rather than focusing on the real me, the authentic me self. Doing the things that I want, the things that I need, not the things that other people want from me, what I think that other people want me to do, So that is my path to the future. My process is trying to create that self now. It's like Dana Anderson was talking about adding bricks rather than taking away bricks from the construction of the self as part of unmasking. Because the language around unmasking is very much like, oh, you're just stripping away the mask and discovering what's behind. But really, what you're doing is that you're constructing a self so that you don't need to have that mask propping you up, that you can actually live your authentic, realized self life. And I'm not there yet because I realize that there's a lot that I haven't developed, I haven't grown, I've had to stunt a lot of my growth in order to just survive and to keep going in life. And my point now is now that I'm getting out of survival mode, I can start developing other parts of myself. And I'm doing it slowly, for example, just going to the wedding. I thought I was a person who would hate weddings. And now I realize, actually, I really love the wedding, or I realize, I'm a person who likes to crochet granny squares, but I don't like crocheting in the row. I wouldn't have known that had I never tried anything new. It's just as difficult as an autistic person to try new things. So once again, I'm giving myself grace and patience of okay, it's not going to go in one day. I'm not going to be able to try many, many new things, especially at the same time. I can only try one new thing at a time and take my time with it. And with time, I will grow into a more well-rounded person who has different skills and different talents and different things I like and dislike, and not be going around the world lost and avoiding all the things that are scary to me. Because at the moment, my life is very empty because I have been avoiding things a lot in my life. And I almost thought I had avoidant personality disorder. I do not, but because I've avoided so many things, I haven't been able to create a fully fledged person that is authentically me. I've spent so much of my energy instead trying to be that neurotypical person that I couldn't be, because I was always neurodivergent my whole life. I've never been neurotypical in my life. So my life hasn't completely, I'm not a completely new person, but my life, I've decided to switch gears, and my diagnosis has helped me to move to a different direction of what we want. It's still the same direction. It's still the direction of self-development, but it's a different path to get there, and the destination might not even really be the same. I'm just saying that it's these things that I thought were inherent to myself were not. And I don't really know like I thought I knew who I was, and then I realized no, I don't. And it's like, it's complicated. uh, I'm very self-aware in many ways, but in several ways I just am not, and that is the path I'm going to continue going on. um, so that's all I had to say about this. um, I hope to keep growing. I hope to keep learning about myself. I keep finding finding out new things about myself, and it's really wonderful to experience life in a different manner than other people. I am forever like curious and excited about the fact that there's so much diversity between people, and learning to appreciate everything about life. I think I've been able to appreciate life much better this past year, and I don't regret getting a diagnosis. I think that we all go through things in life, and that are, you know, that make and break and build our experience of life. And I think that this was a wonderful adventure, and that is still ongoing. It's like life, you know. So that's all I had to say. Sorry for this really, really long video, but there was a lot to say, because it's huge, you know. And so tell me what your guys think. What is your experience? Have you gotten a diagnosis? Are you planning on getting a diagnosis? How did you take it? How are you progressing? Maybe you're not autistic at all and you're just wondering about me. Yeah, tell me what you guys think.